Welcome to your Rally Point podcast. Organizations need a reason to exist, and people need a reason to care, but none of it matters if you can't connect the two. This podcast is where nonprofits, advocacy groups, and mission-driven organizations discover their rallying point. It is your go-to resource for mobilizing support, building authentic connections, and driving real results. So grab your coffee, get comfortable, and let's rally together to create the impact you're meant to make. This is your Rally Point podcast, brought to you by rallycorp.com.
Hello, everybody. James here with your Rally Point podcast, back with Jack for our next episode. Hey, Jack.
Hey.
How you doing?
Hey. As always, fantastic. No complaints at all.
I love it. Well, hey, that's great. Today we're going to talk about the types of text messages and best practices of text messages. Last week, we talked about the types of text messages. Today we'll talk about best practices to kind of give people some handholds. So when they leave today's episode, they should have some homework.
Oh yeah.
At least something that they can take action on. How does that sound?
Yeah. And they should be excited about it too.
That's right. That's for sure. All right, Jack, so let's dive in. So we talked last week about the types of text messages. They're not all created equal. We've got conversational is like the holy grail. So that's just personalized, coming from a person. We talked about, the benefits of that over time because it feels more human, right? And then we talked about transactional. You register for an event. We trigger a text message with the information, maybe the parking instructions, whatever. But it's tied to you did something online, so here's your thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like ordering an Uber or groceries or something like that, right? And then we've talked about the informational, send something maybe the day before, the day of, and then follow up maybe afterwards, but a little bit more informational in nature, something that would be of value, either delivering information to their pocket for an event, what have you. And then, of course, we talked about solicitation, which is where I think most people think about texting donors is an ask. But we talked about that is very important. You got to get to the point of what you want, but it's certainly not the only thing they communicate. So let's dive into some best practices around writing messages. Jack, take it away. What can you think of that you'd want to share today on that?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. We talk about the types of messaging. We provide these tools to our clients, and then what do you do? It's like,
now what?
It's like, wow, I'm going to send a message to even 30 people, and what do you say, right? And so that's important to walk through, in as much as I think we all use like maybe AI tools like, hey, rewrite my email, right? Text messaging is a little different because we don't need a cold AI, context. We talk about it. This is personal, right? So
short.
I believe that it's really, really important that you find a way to express your need. Let's say on a solicitation, that express your need and give me, if I'm a donor or someone who wants to support your organization in some way, give me the great information that I need, but it is text. And so you should be to the point and express your need and then give me like, where do I go from here, right? I use the word on-ramp, right? That freeway on-ramp. I think it's incumbent upon you when you're creating these text messages to have some components of that, right? Their name and what you're trying to achieve, even if you're just sharing something with them. And of course, there's an SMS message, which is shorter and requires you to be really a little bit more succinct. It's a little trickier, actually. Or we have these long messages, MMS messages, which are 1,200 characters, right? And those messages tend to keep people in your story. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you could almost view that as an article in text, right? Your short article about what you're doing in Africa or whatever it might be, really pulling people in, and it's unswipeable, right? Yeah. Texting is not a swipe away kind of thing.
You're right. Yeah.
And so I think we'll dive more into that. But it's important, but it's nothing to be scared of, right? The actual create the content and hit the send button. And once you do it a few times, you're good to go.
Exactly. My favorite text messages that often when it comes for when I write them, I'll take content that I've already created because I'm not looking to create something brand new, right? Yeah. I've already written it for my website potentially, right? Maybe I've written a blog post. I've done some type of like that little thumb there. If you're watching the video, I got my graphics turned on here. So if you write if you're writing content for your website or for social media or for an email, we're simply just taking that information out. And sometimes actually we did this recently with a museum we were working with. Remember, we took their newsletter.
Oh yeah.
And I ran it through AI, and I'm like, hey, write me, here's 3 or 4 of their newsletters that they were sending out, HTML emails. I just copied and pasted them into ChatGPT. I think you're more of a Copilot guy, but so it doesn't really, the tool doesn't matter as much, just copy and paste them. And I'm write me 3 text messages that, examples or ideas out of here so I can get some inspiration, right? So we're not talking about taking hours and hours and stressing over like, what word should I say? No. And then I had the AI engine, add emojis for me. Grab me a couple of emojis. Let's personalize it. Add their first name, right? And then I just got some inspiration, right? And if I liked those, which I did, I ended up adding them as a template so I could just pick them in the drop down next time and just repurpose them, right? So we're not talking about one of the best practices, I think, is to stay what they would consider in marketing like brand voice. Like, what is your voice? What are you communicating about your cause? Like, why do you exist, right? And chances are you're already doing it on social media. You're already doing it in blog potentially or on your website in article format. You might be posting, on LinkedIn or some articles like that, right? But if you're sending out emails already, Jack, and social media, just grabbing that same content and repurposing it. I mean, we're talking minutes, not hours. Is that right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I've used our texting tool for a group that I use for texting here in our neighborhood, and that's over 100 people, I think. I will repurpose a lot of content time and time again. And it's, again, if you think about people in nonprofit organizations that are already getting approval for, sending out an email, they're getting approval for posting up on social media. Why not just do the text message too?
That's
right. I mean, it's like it just ends up being, and we like to we tout texting, right? Yeah. But it really ends up being an extension of what you're doing anyway.
That's right. That's right.
Right. So it doesn't really require any more resources.
Yeah, it's one more touch, one more channel. We're not talking about reinventing the wheel here. So I took a graphic that my team did for Instagram, and I just ran it through Canva. Canva has this amazing resizing capability, and I just resized it for the optimal size for MMS. That's a text message with a picture, right?
Yeah.
And so those dimensions are actually, there's a template in Canva for that. But if you're not familiar with what those dimensions are, we have a blog post up on it. So just Google, I don't know, Rally Corp MMS guideline or something like that. It'll come up. But we give you the guidelines of what that should look like. And then, I mean, you take something you've already done for Instagram and you repurpose it for text. It actually look pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I won't get too into the technical parts of this, but then you can have like, hey, we have basically the same message in email and text. Mm-hmm. And how did they perform?
Exactly.
Right. It's a very simple thing. Right? Yeah. You could say, wow, texting really works because it really produced for me in this particular same basic content, but we had, more activity, more opens, more engagement.
Yeah. When we were driving signups for our upcoming fundraiser event, we did an email, of course. We did our social media posts. We had the graphics made, Instagram through Canva. We have a resource that we use to do that. Then I just took that same content in about 10 minutes. I resized it for the cell phone. And then I wrote a simple little script, which we can talk about voicemails here in a minute. But remember, with the Rally platform, we can also drop voicemails. Yeah. So I just wrote a real quick voicemail script, kept it in. And the biggest challenge there was just keeping it at a minute, maybe a minute and a half, right? But I wanted to sound personal, and I didn't want to sound gimmicky, right? So it was just something effective. Hey, friend, just shot you a quick email and text message. Just wanted to follow, make sure you got that. You can call me back at this number if you have any questions, but we look forward to seeing you there. And then the text message just simply said, are you going to be able to make it this year? Can we count on you? Is Tracy coming with you? Right. So you can personalize that. We're talking fields in a spreadsheet, right? But import them and write the message. So best practice, personalize with their name. Would you agree?
Yes. We call those merge tags, but you're all familiar because you do email.
Yep. So that's right. First name at least, right? So I think with ours, you can do unlimited tags, but we'll just say first name. So personalize it. I'm a big fan of emojis. Right. Obviously use the emoji picker in our platform because it handles all the encoding and everything for you. If you're doing Android and Apple, they're a little unique in that way. So we want to use the emojis. We want to make sure the message is relevant. Right. So you've got a few sentences, right, to make it count. So make sure that it's helpful, and then repurpose content. And then I would add, I'm going to add a graphic or something because You say something about keeping people in the mess. Walk me through that. What?
Yeah. So, texting is unique in that, comparative to the other forms of communication that we do, maybe DMs or Instagram or whatever, where we just have that swiping finger, right?
Yeah.
And one of the advantages that text has for years, we've had the ability to send somebody a text message. They'll open it within 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And when they open that message, it's really a matter of you've got them reading your message, and it's not as quick. It's not a swipeable thing, right? You're not swiping it away when you're in the message. You have to actually physically back out. And so I'm a huge fan of a longer message, keeping people in the article, right? I mean, if you've got a great message, I worked with a client, and they had a capital campaign project to build a new like aviary for birds and stuff. And we were working to try to figure out, like what the content would be, an example of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And instead of just asking for donation and all that, actually include the story of the aviary.
Yeah.
Or include because that was actually way cooler, but they couldn't really explain that in a short message. It was more just like, hey, we need your donation, blah, blah, blah. But the longer message really boosts interest in what you're actually trying to do. And it goes back, I think we talked about that in our last podcast where I said, a donor, you don't ever want a donor to go, gosh, I wish I knew that.
I wish I would have.
I wish I had more information.
Sure.
Well, with the long MMS message, with a picture even, that gives them the information they need to make a decision on to support or what action to take for you.
Yeah.
And so I call it keeping people in the message and giving them the full story. That actually works a lot better, and that's far more engaging. A short message works too, but the longer message is really where it's at. Unswipeable, keeping them in the message, the full story. And then the last part of that is taking them easily to a place where they take action. So using a link, for example.
And making it clear what you're expecting them to do.
Sure.
Yeah, it was funny. While you were talking, I was reminded of a text message I just got. And if you're on video, you'll see it. If not, you'll have to, just imagine it. But the fact of the matter, they use numbers. They use, 2 emojis. They use numbers of how many meals a day, right? So it says you're helping provide nearly 3,800 meals daily, more than 160 nights of shelter each night. Okay, so real numbers, good graphics, drawing people in, and then it's not a bit.ly or some crazy little. It's their it's their short link. So it says sellarmy dot whatever, right? So a custom short link is going to give me trust to click on that, right?
Yes.
Because of course, we got their caller ID right there. We know who it is, right?
Oh, yeah.
So if you get a text message from a stranger or a spam risk number or an unregistered number, you don't know who these people are. And if it's a bit.ly, we've heard this before, Jack, right? Because we have had big clients come to us concerned because the previous platform they were on didn't offer these, validation features or these caller ID features, and their donors were getting random text messages to donate to a bad actor, right? It wasn't even. I think one group we talked to had tens of thousands of dollars raised, in a fraud, right? Because because their donors weren't trained like, hey, this is my phone number, and if it comes from this website, it's secure, and if it's not, it's not, right? So that's a problem. So that's why I think you work with a vendor that goes through the trouble of registering and caller ID and fixing everything to get it identifiable, and then when you send the message like that, it actually tells you who it is and what to do, and it's clear. It's a link that's it's not a bit.ly.
Right. And I think there was one piece I think we missed. Now I would say that this is more advanced. If you have a smaller nonprofit, this may not apply to you, right?
Yeah. So you can plug your ears.
Right. But we talk about it's a segmenting life now.
It is.
And when we say the word segmenting, we basically appreciate the different groups of people that might donate to my organization or support my organization. And so it might be that you have a group of what I always call gold donors, right?
Yeah.
People that will come to a gala and give you a large donation, right? And then you have your what I call silver donors or your bronze donors, right?
Mm-hmm.
And some of the better messaging that we see uses some sort of segmentation, and I won't get into how we do this in the platform, but we have the ability to tag people in that way.
Sure.
And so you're sending your bigger asks, or don't forget to get your gala tickets to one group, and maybe the small dollar group who is fantastic and they want to support you anyway, but they might get a more personalized message tailored for them. You might not ask them to donate their car or property or go to the really fancy glitzy gala, but they might be in for $5 or $10 to support the cause of building your new basketball court for the kids.
Yeah.
And so in that side, that message and that segmented group, that's also part of message. It's not really message content, but it is part of the best practice if you're a more advanced nonprofit is kind of segmenting your message and tailoring and personalizing that message. And you don't have to have like tens of groups or tons of different ways to do this. There are people that send to the full list and they don't divide it up. That's fine too. Yep. But as we're talking about personalization, that's something to consider, and it's super easy to do.
Yeah, it's not hard.
Yeah.
And some platforms I think will help you with that. I know we're doing this in the pilot program right now with a number of customers that are helping us perfect it, but we've got the new scoring coming out where we can we can score, how many replies, how many clicks, what the engagement level is. Because listen, nothing's worse than hitting a massive list. And some of our clients have, tens of thousands, millions, hundreds of thousands, right, of people on their list, and it gets expensive after a while. So one of the things we're looking to do is, hey, can we identify the most active people and move them forward and front center, and everybody, that has a lower score, maybe we only hit them a couple times a year, right? So that can be done on dollar amount. It could be done on activity. It could be done on any demographic or information that you might have. So, but that's great advice. So you're talking content and audience, really.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
and behavior.
Those are the times. I mean, that's how things happen these days for outreach and things.
That's right.
It's no longer a blast life, right? In what all of you do. And I would say that, the basics of what we're talking about here, as far as like best practices for writing these text messages in the groups we're sending to, I think one of the old kind of hang up that people still feel about texting, especially with conservative, like nonprofits are always kind of conservative and they're careful, is you remember that. Like, hey, I just gave a donation 2 weeks ago and now you're asking me again.
Yeah.
We're better than that. I mean, nonprofits, you're all better than that. And so let's use the tools to prevent that from happening.
Yeah.
And that's important.
Yeah, very, very, very good points. We're looking at repurposing. So just to recap a bit, we're looking at repurposing content, not necessarily have to create new ones. We can use AI, or even if you're a customer of Rally, just email support and say, hey, can you give me some ideas? We've got pre-written templates. I don't mind AI for ideas, and I have written messages through AI. But most of the templates that I prefer are the ones actually written by we hired a CRFE, a certified coach that came in and helped us write some really good content. So I prefer those written by a human, kind of to think about like way to build, where text message number 1 builds to text message number 2, and that builds to text message number 3. So it tells a concurrent story. Because that's one of the things I do want to mention, Jack, is if you bring up your text message history on your phone right now, you have a story in this narrative. Like it's all in one place.
Yes.
Right. And in email, you can do this if you're forwarding the same email over and over again or replying, but most of your mass email tools don't allow you to do that, right? Everything in email is a new thread, right? Or a new subject creates a whole new email, right? So in this case, though, we can tell a story that builds on each other, and we can begin to really think through, like, how do we draw the audience in and keep them in the moment and build on the narrative and the story of what we've done. So maybe it's pre-ask, ask, and then impact, right?
Yeah.
Success, right?
Yeah.
So it's really kind of thinking about messaging for the moment, helping segment in simple ways of maybe how I divide that list up, but then just seeing what works, because it's an encapsulated all-in-one conversation.
Right.
And I've shared this before, Jack, but when I lost my brother, I went in, one of the first things, but after a week or so, I went in and I screenshotted the text messages, because that was an encapsulation of our last few weeks together. All the conversations were in one place.
Right.
Special. It's very special. Exactly. Because that's like in the moment, this is what we were doing. And that's the relational equity and relationship right in here, kind of, and then in picture, video, and in words. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, such a great point. How would a supporter feel if they look back on a thread and there was a call to action for funding for a new gymnasium,
Yep.
right? And, for like inner city youth. And you know that you donated, you got a thank you message from Rally for donating, right?
Yep,
Because they saw the call to action. It was a great call to action. They went and donated. They got a thank you notice. And then they got progress texts like, hey, here's what the building looks like. We're so excited. And then all of a sudden a grand opening announcement, please join us for the grand opening of the gymnasium. I mean, all encapsulated in a single thread, all done really well. And, really, it's not that hard, but that is, and your comment personally is, I mean, that's what we're talking about here is overall, like that's human-centered, right? That's personalized rather than just like a dead kind of ask and another ask and another ask. And then never getting another message is like, what happened with the building?
What's going on?
Or you see pictures in the newspaper, with someone with scissors, grand opening. And you're like, wait a minute, I gave money. I would have loved to celebrate that.
I would have been there.
So, and this happens. This is real life. We see nonprofits that, will do that. And then the supporters are in a black hole. I talk about a nonprofit that I've been giving to for years that should be doing this. And right now, every dollar is critical. 2025.
Make it count.
And so we're talking about these simple things, but these simple things roll up to big things for you, for nonprofits.
Yeah. We're talking a few pennies really at the end of the day, right?
A few pennies.
Yeah. A few pennies. So and if you're repurposing content and you're thinking about it kind of in the broader scheme of things, it doesn't take a lot of time, does it?
No.
Yeah.
No, minutes.
And the segmentation does concern people because you hear the word segmentation, like, what does that even mean? So I can assure you of this: if you're using the tagging, if you're tagging the replies or using our AI tool to do some of that for you, it's one button. You push one button, and it filters out everybody who clicked or everybody who didn't click, depending on which side of that button you click, and then you select all and compose a new message. Yeah. It's that easy, right? So
you use these same tools in your email.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So everybody,
how do I find out who's unread? My who hasn't read my messages or whatever, or I haven't read them.
So grouping is easy, right? Just regroup. Yeah. And then I'm excited about the scoring mechanism that we're working on, because I think and last touch, you can see when you last touch somebody and what the score was and, kind of behavioral stuff. Because I think long-term, that's where we're headed with more of that automation. But for now, repurpose content, make it personal. It's not rocket science.
No.
Yeah. You say it all the time. You know what a good text message feels like.
That's right.
I love it. Well, Jack, we're kind of at time. We owe our group our audience a bit of time back from last week, as we went a few minutes over. So let's give it back this episode. But any closing thoughts that we can give them as we wrap things up here?
I think the bigger overarching thing about this podcast and some of these last couple episodes is reducing the concern that nonprofits have with texting and making it way more easily and understandable. Shame on us for having texting services be available for companies and nonprofits for 20 years and allowing a better understanding of this. And so this is exciting. It's exciting for me to kind of reduce the fears, make texting more habitual. And, at the end of the day, texts get opened 8 times more often than an email to the same person. And we're here to kind of foster that, make it simple,
and make it approachable.
Concern, and make it approachable.
And listen, I don't ever want to, I say should on people. I don't want to, you should do this, you should do that. People are, have enough to do. We're all busy, right? So the heart in this message here is just simply like, we want to make it approachable, and we want to help you think about how to do it effectively and well. So let's take what you've already done and let's just amplify the success. Let's see if we can 2 or 3x what you've already been doing, right?
Exactly.
So if you're posting on social media and not really feeling like you're getting results, keep posting on social media, but let's see if we can kick some of those graphics out and send some personalized messages and see what that might look like, right?
100%.
But make it easy on yourself. Don't make it hard.
Yes.
Okay. I love it. Well, thank you, Jack. If our audience wants to text the word coach to the phone number 24365, it's like having a coach in your pocket 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Wouldn't that be cool? You'll get weekly updates, tips, and tricks, including some videos and some guides, how to. All of it's free. You can reply to questions and talk to a real human. We'll even give you a phone number to call so you can actually talk to a human. How does that sound? Should I say?
And that's been a popular program, by the way, so don't miss out. Sign up.
Yeah. Should I say operator standing by?
Operator standing by. Yes.
Marissa will be like, no. Okay, good. Hey, everybody. Thanks again, James and Jack with your Rally Point podcast. Text coach to 24365 or stop by rallycorp.com and mash that orange button in the bottom right-hand corner. Till next time.